Okay, so picture this for a second. Imagine you are, I don't know, one of the most elite athletes on the planet. You're Usain Bolt in his prime, maybe Serena Williams. You are at the absolute peak. You know more about your sport, your body, your technique
Yeah.
than almost anyone else alive. Now, imagine I walk up to you and ask, hey, since you're so good, have you considered, firing your coach and just figuring it out on your own?
You'd be laughed out of the stadium. I mean, it's a completely absurd idea in sports. In fact, the better the athlete, the more coaches they seem to have. You've got nutrition coaches, mindset coaches, strength coaches. You don't outgrow coaching, you grow into it.
Exactly. And yet, and this is the thing that just drives me crazy, we cross the street from the stadium to the office tower, and that logic completely flips on its head. We see millions of entrepreneurs, smart, driven, capable people trying to be the star player, the general manager, and the head coach all at the same time. And they're usually doing it completely alone.
It's that lone wolf mythology, isn't it? We have this cultural idea of the entrepreneur as this solitary genius on a mountaintop. But the reality is that isolation is probably the single biggest structural mistake in the small business world. It leads to burnout, it leads to stagnation, and it leads to that classic problem where you can't see the forest for the trees.
So today, we're going to tackle that isolation head on. We are doing a deep dive into the mechanics of business coaching. And I want to be really clear up front. We are not talking about life coaching or, generic motivational stuff where someone just tells you to believe in your dreams. We're looking at the specific operational philosophy of Brad Sugars.
Right. And Sugars is a heavyweight in this space. He's the founder and chairman of Action Coach, and he spent the last, 30 years since 1993, specifically just deconstructing why businesses stop growing.
And what I love about the source material we're looking at today is that he treats coaching as an economic necessity. It's not a luxury item. He breaks it down into systems, psychology, specific value mechanics. We're going to look at the transition from consulting to coaching, the 3 specific lenses a coach uses, and this absolutely terrifying concept he calls the list of 20.
Oh, that list is a wake-up call for anyone listening, I can promise you that.
I'm ready for the terror. But let's start with the history, because I think it explains the why behind this whole industry. Brad Sugars started this back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
What was the landscape like then? I mean, business coaching wasn't really a term people used, was it?
Not at all. No, if you were a business owner in 1993 and things were going sideways, you didn't hire a coach. You hired a consultant. And Sugars, he identified this fatal flaw in that traditional model. He realized that the consulting model, by its very nature, is designed to create dependency.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a minute. If I have a marketing problem and I hire a marketing consultant to come in and fix it, isn't that efficient? I pay for a fix, I get a fix. What's the problem?
It's efficient for the problem, but it's debilitating for the owner. I mean, think about the structure of it. You hire an expert, they're on an hourly rate, they come in, they use their superior knowledge to, build a new marketing plan or restructure your debt, and then they leave.
Right.
But when they walk out that door, all the expertise walks out with them. You, the owner, you haven't actually leveled up your skill set. You've just rented a brain for a month. You are essentially back at square one the moment the market shifts again.
I see. So it's the ultimate give a man a fish scenario. You eat for a day, but you still don't know how to hold the fishing rod.
That's exactly. And Sugar saw that owners were getting frustrated because 6 months later, the fix would stop working and they'd be helpless again. They didn't want a rented solution. They wanted the capability to solve problems themselves. They wanted that knowledge transferred.
So the shift to coaching was basically a shift from doing it for you to teaching you how to do it.
Yes, but it wasn't a straight line. Sugars actually mentions they tried the seminar route first. The tight pack 500 business owners in a hotel ballroom, pump them up for 2 days, give them a heavy binder.
Oh, I have a shelf full of those binders. I call it my graveyard of good intentions. I think I've opened them exactly 0 times since the conference ended.
That is the universal experience. It's what we call shelf help. You get this massive dopamine hit of inspiration. You feel like you're going to change the world. And then Monday morning hits. The phone rings, an employee calls in sick, a client complains, and you fall right back into your old habits. Seminars are great for ideas, but they don't provide the friction you need to actually change your behavior.
Friction is an interesting word there. You mean like the pressure to actually stick with the plan?
Precisely. Behavioral change needs sustained pressure and guidance. So Sugars pivoted. He moved to long-term, one-on-one coaching and group structures like profit clubs or action clubs. The whole goal was to create a relationship that assists with cash flow and profitability over time, not just in a one-off weekend. It's about sticking around long enough to make sure the owner actually learns how to fish.
Okay, so that establishes the vehicle. It's a long-term relationship, not some transactional fix. But let's get into the engine. What is actually happening in those sessions? Because I think a lot of people just imagine it's, having coffee and chatting about your feelings.
Oh, far from it. Sugars outlines 4 main pillars of value that make this work. And the first one is this idea of perspective, of seeing the forest for the trees.
This is the big one. Sugars uses a great analogy that I think everyone listening can relate to. He asks,
Yeah.
when do you get your absolute best ideas for your business?
And let me guess, it's never when you're actually at the office.
Never. It's in the shower. Or driving. Or, the first day of vacation when I finally put my phone down and just stare at the ocean.
Exactly. When you are in the business, you're just buried in the details. You're putting out fires. You are part of the pattern, so you can't see the pattern. Sugars argues that the primary value of a coach is that they force you to take that vacation perspective every single week without having to fly to Hawaii.
But again, isn't that just talking? I mean, I can get perspective talking to my spouse or a buddy at the bar. How is a coach's perspective structurally different from just, venting to a friend?
And this is where Sugars gets really technical, and I love this breakdown. He says a professional coach uses 3 specific lenses or viewpoints to look at your business, and your buddy at the bar is definitely not doing this.
Okay, walk me through the lenses. This sounds like the secret sauce.
The first lens is looking at the company strictly as a business coach. This is the mechanical view. They're looking at the chassis of the car.
The nuts and bolts.
Right. Is the strategy sound? Is the cash flow forecasted properly? Is the org chart actually functional? Or is it just a mess of dotted lines? They're looking at the business as a machine and asking, are the gears grinding? It's that objective MBA-style analysis.
Okay, so that's the structural view, the technical audit. What's the second lens?
The second lens is where it gets a little counterintuitive.
Right.
The second lens is looking at the business like a customer. And this is where Sugars makes a kind of controversial point. He says, it is actually a benefit if your coach doesn't know anything about your specific industry.
That seems backwards. If I run a software company, don't I want a coach who knows all about SaaS metrics and churn rates? If I run a bakery, don't I want someone who knows flour costs?
You'd think so. But Sugars calls this the curse of knowledge. If you're an expert in your field, and I'm an expert in your field, we're both going to make assumptions. We're going to speak in jargon. We're going to accept industry standards as, unchangeable facts.
I see where you're going with this. We both know how the sausage is made, so we stop asking if the sausage actually tastes good to the person who's buying it.
Precisely. A coach who's an outsider brings a naive, customer-oriented thought process. They can look at your sales process and say, I don't care how everyone else in the industry does it. As a buyer, this is confusing and annoying. Why do I have to click 3 times to buy this? They combine your industry expertise with their growth expertise to bridge that gap.
That is a really crucial distinction. It's a sanity check. It stops you from getting high on your own supply, so to speak. Okay, so we have the business lens and the customer lens. What's the third?
The third lens is looking through your eyes, the owner's eyes.
Wait, but I'm already doing that. That's my default setting. Why do I need to pay someone to look through my eyes?
Because you're doing it, but you aren't analyzing it. You're living it. A coach looks through your eyes to understand why you're making the decisions you're making. They are looking for your blind spots, your biases, your limiting beliefs.
Okay, can you give me a concrete example of how that would play out?
Sure. Let's say a business is stuck at $1 million in revenue. The mechanics lens 1, they look fine. The product lens 2 is great. But the owner lens 3 has this deep-seated belief that if I grow bigger, I'll lose control and I'll never see my family.
So no matter what strategy you give them, they will subconsciously sabotage the growth because of that belief. They'll delay hiring or they'll stop marketing when things get too busy.
Exactly. A consultant fixes the strategy. A coach fixes the psychology. By triangulating these 3 lenses, business, customer, owner, the coach sees this 3D picture of the problem that the owner is physically incapable of seeing because they're standing inside the frame.
That makes so much sense. It's not just advice. It's a systematic dismantling of your blind spots. Good. Let's move to the second pillar. Sugars identifies. He talks about just-in-time knowledge. This one resonates with me because I feel like I am drowning in information but starving for wisdom.
Time is the enemy of the learner. Sugars is very pragmatic about this. He knows business owners are busy. You probably have a stack of business books on your nightstand that you swore you'd read 6 months ago.
It's a tower of guilt. I'm not kidding. I look at it every night and I think, I really need to read that book on HR, and then I turn on Netflix because I'm just exhausted.
And here's the thing. Even if you read them, most of it isn't applicable right now. You might read a great book on hiring, but you aren't actually hiring for 6 months. By the time you need the info, you've forgotten it. It's just-in-case learning. Sugars positions the coach as a supply chain for knowledge.
A supply chain for knowledge. Explain that.
It's just-in-time learning. So instead of you spending 20 hours reading about every possible HR problem, the coach waits until you actually have a recruiting crisis. Then, in that week session, they give you the specific tools, the templates, the scripts to solve that problem right now.
So the retention is higher because the application is immediate. I'm not learning theory. I'm learning how to survive the week.
It's 100% applicable. You learn it on Tuesday, you use it on Wednesday. Sugars argues this is why coaching has moved from a luxury to a necessity. The market moves too fast. You can't afford a 6-month learning curve to figure out digital marketing or cash flow management. You need the answer now.
It just speeds up the cycle time of failure and success.
Yeah.
You aren't stumbling around in the dark. You're being handed a flashlight right when you need it.
Right. And the end game here is specific. Sugar says the goal isn't to be coached forever on the basics. The goal is to build the business to a point where you can hire a manager. And then the coach coaches the manager.
That's the dream, isn't it? The business that runs itself.
That's the definition of a successful business, one that works without you. The coach is the insurance policy that creates the structure to make that possible.
Okay, moving to reason number 3. And honestly, this is the one that makes my stomach churn a little bit. Accountability. The A word.
It's the most uncomfortable part, but Sugars claims it's the most fundamental. He goes right back to that sports analogy. When you were a kid, if you showed up late to football practice, what happened?
You ran laps.
Yeah.
Or you did push-ups. There were immediate consequences. And you didn't argue with the coach because you respected the authority.
Right. Now, fast forward to the corporate world. If you're a CEO of a public company who holds you accountable...
Shareholders, the board of directors. If you miss your quarterly numbers, you get fired. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. There's massive external pressure to perform. But if you're a small business owner and you pay your staff and you pay the rent and you take home a decent paycheck, who is demanding that you grow?
No one. My cat certainly doesn't care. As long as the lights stay on, nobody's banging on my door demanding 10% growth.
No one. You can post, you can stagnate, you can get comfortable. And Sugar says comfort is the death of growth. He has this great exercise, and I'd love for the listeners to mentally do this right now. He asks owners to write a list of 20.
What's on the list?
It's a list of 20 things you know you should be doing, but you aren't.
Oh, I hate this exercise already.
It's brutal because it exposes the truth. Most owners can write that list in 5 minutes. I need to fire that toxic salesperson. I need to raise my prices. I need to call my top 10 clients to ask for referrals. I need to fix the website.
So the problem isn't that we don't know what to do. The problem is that we're just not doing it.
The knowledge gap is rarely the main issue. It's the execution gap. We avoid that list because those tasks are hard, or they're scary, or they're boring. We prioritize the urgent over the important. A coach basically takes that list and becomes your personal Wall Street.
They're the external pressure mechanism.
Sugars is very blunt about this. He says, you don't pay a coach to be your friend. You have friends. You pay a coach to make you successful. A friend will buy you a beer and say, hey, tough week, don't worry about the sales calls. A coach will say, you said you'd make those 50 sales calls. You didn't. Why? And when are you going to do it?
It's emotional labor. It's someone willing to have the confrontation that you're avoiding with yourself.
And it cuts both ways. Sugars also talks about the loneliness of entrepreneurship. It's not just about whipping you into shape. It's also about having a safe space to be vulnerable. You can't tell your employees you're worried about payroll. They'll panic and quit.
Yeah.
You can't always dump it on your spouse because they might not get the context. The coach is the one person you can be completely honest with.
So they're part drill sergeant, part therapist.
Ideally, yes. They break the isolation. They provide a space where you can be weak so that you can go back out to your team and be strong.
That brings us to the final pillar. So we've had perspective, knowledge, and accountability. The fourth one is the system. And this is where the Action Coach H model specifically comes into play, because it's not just one guy in a garage giving his ice.
Right, and this appeals to the logical, risk-averse side of the brain. Sugars emphasizes that when you hire a coach from a large network, you aren't just hiring one person's opinion, you're buying into a hive mind.
How does that actually work in practice? Is it like a big database?
It's both a database and a living network. I mean, Action Coach has something like 1,000 coaches in over 20 countries. Sugars describes an internal forum they use. Let's say you run a very, very niche business. Maybe you manufacture left-handed violin strings.
Okay, very niche.
And you have a specific supply chain problem with the material you use. Your local coach might not know the answer, but they can go to the network and say, has anyone solved this specific problem? And with 1,000 coaches, odds are someone in Germany or Brazil or Texas has seen it before.
That's a huge leverage point. You're not limited to the IQ of the person sitting across from you. You have access to the collective brain of the entire organization.
Exactly. And Sugars talks a lot about testing and measuring. This is a huge part of his philosophy. He says the difference between a hunch and a system is data. A hunch is, I think this red headline works better. A system is, we have tested this red headline across 10,000 businesses and we know it converts 12% better.
I can see why that's so comforting for a business owner. When you're risking your livelihood, your house, your savings, you don't want to experiment if you don't have to. You want a paved road.
It de-risks the growth. Sugars has codified this into what he calls the 6-step system.
No.
We don't have time to break down every single step today, but the concept is that business is not an art form. It's a science. It's a recipe. And if you follow the recipe, you get the cake. If you improvise, you might get a mess.
So when we pull all this together, the 3 lenses of perspective, the just-in-time learning, the accountability of the list of 20, and the safety of the system, it really challenges that lone wolf idea we started with.
It frames going it alone not as heroic, but as, well, as inefficient. It's a strategic error. You are choosing to learn by trial and error, which is the slowest, most expensive way to learn, when you could just buy the map.
Brings me right back to that list of 20. I think that's the most actionable takeaway for today.
It absolutely is. If you're listening to this, I want to challenge you. Grab a piece of paper right now. Write down the 20 things you are ignoring in your business or your career. And then ask yourself the hard question. Why aren't they done?
Is it because you don't know how? That's a knowledge problem. Or is it because no one is making you do it? That's an accountability problem.
And if you look at that list and realize it's the same list you had 6 months ago, well, you've just proven why the coaching model exists. You're stuck in the loop. You're trying to solve the problem with the same thinking that created it.
It's a sobering thought. We like to think of ourselves as so self-sufficient, but sometimes the smartest move is just admitting you need a spotter to lift the heavy weight.
The amateur thinks they have to do it all to prove they're worthy. The professional builds a team to ensure they win. That really is the difference.
I want to leave the listeners with one final thought to chew on. We started with athletes, and I'll end there. If someone like LeBron James or Tiger Woods, people with practically superhuman talent, spend millions of dollars a year on coaches just to find a 1% improvement, is it arrogance, or is it just bad math to think that you can master the infinite complexity of business entirely by yourself?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us today on the philosophy of Brad Sugars. Hopefully this gave you a new lens to look at your own growth. We'll catch you on the next one.